Good afternoon, listeners. Have I ever introduced you to John? John is a library staff member who works in the youth services department, and we see each other in passing on occasion. He's an average height with scruffy brown hair and brown eyes, a kind smile, and a good work ethic. Every day on his way into work, he drinks a cup of coffee and listens to the local community radio. Thank you, John. Every day, he carries his things up to the 4th floor, sets them down at the desk, and looks over his to-do list. Often, he is hungry after a few minutes at work. He ignores this feeling completely. It isn't lunchtime yet. He sips on the diet soda he knows he doesn't need and dives into his work. Time slips by as he writes a script for a program and fills out his monthly statistic paperwork. John's thoughts wander. He thinks to himself things like, how does the guy on the radio know what I'm thinking right now? And it's going to be really weird if he keeps saying what I'm thinking, especially because of the 7-second delay. He then thinks, wait, I recognize that voice. Isn't that Victor? I meet him on the elevator up sometimes, which is weird because he never seems to come and go on a normal schedule, and sometimes it doesn't seem like anybody's seen him leave at all. I don't know what he's talking about, listeners. The music playing in John's head doesn't match the music being broadcast on the radio. He wonders why. This occurs because the music playing in his head is copyrighted material and would cost a lot of money to play on the air. John will have to settle for what's playing behind his thoughts here instead. He begins to feel a little bit sensory overloaded as the music on the radio clashes with the music in his head. He tries to turn down the voice of the man, Victor, he remembers, on the radio. The volume dials and buttons do nothing. He sighs in defeat. Resigning himself to his bland musical fate, he hopes silently that the man on the radio will not continue to narrate everything he does today. John continues to gather the numbers he needs and fill out paperwork and do other work-related things that aren't interesting enough to mention. His mind continues to wander. Sometimes he wishes he'd become an artist. Other times, he's glad he didn't. He misses his cat. He really wishes the man on the radio didn't somehow know what he was thinking. He's not sure how that even works. Victor barely knows him, hardly speaks to him, seldom recognizes his existence at all. And yet, here we all are. Myself, Victor, saying all of this aloud on the radio. John, the library employee, listening in horror as I narrate his life. And you, the listener. Probably feeling a bit like you're intruding on John's personal life, but not enough to make you turn the channel, because it's interesting to hear about someone's inner thoughts, even if it feels a little wrong. I actually am also not sure how I know all of this about John. I'm really just speaking whatever pops into my head, which is dangerous when you're on the air, but I find it's difficult to overcome. John finds this hard to believe, but also very easy to believe, given what goes on around here all the time. I have no idea what he means. Our library and our city are perfectly normal. It's nearing lunchtime, and John's thoughts start to fill with images of frozen TV dinners, seeming so appetizing when he's this hungry. And he's starving. It's only noon, but his body is crying out for sustenance, begging for bread and salt and other things it probably doesn't need but desperately wants. John absent-mindedly makes his way to the staff microwave and washes the fork he keeps at work. He thinks about time as he does so. He doesn't like time. It makes him feel old. John isn't that old, but the teenagers he works with thinks he's old, and sometimes the aches in his legs and back make him want to agree with them. He doesn't always understand them anymore, and it scares him. He remembers being a teenager, but feels so different now that he's an adult. He simultaneously feels exactly the same. Being a human is strange, he decides. All right, John, we get it, dear God. That got very deep very quickly. You're not a radio host, John. Save it for your journal. John wishes, not for the first time today, that there was different music behind his thoughts as they're being broadcasted on the radio. Fine. There. Better? Look, John, this is just as weird for me as it is for you. I don't even know what's happening. For now, while I try to decide if this is strange enough to panic over, let me take you all to the traffic report. Why? Why can't the roads ever just be done being constructed? If there's another street closure, I swear I will lose my cool. I don't understand the purpose of all the constant construction. Do we live in a wonderful and easy-to-traverse city, or do we not? The traffic is impossible to report on because it's all backed up absolutely everywhere because of all the cones and signs and giant cranes. This is horrible. So, some congestion downtown where there are some detours in place to avoid the construction, but overall things look pretty good. This has been the Traffic Report. Library staff member John thinks that the traffic report today is overdramatic and inaccurate. Well, John, I think you're overdramatic and inaccurate. That's right, I said it. Sorry, John. It's rather unprofessional of me, and I didn't mean it. He's definitely forgiving me in his head, listeners. Forgiving me for sure, definitely not cursing at me. What a kind man. He thinks to himself that he has so much left to do this week, but exhaustion consumes him. He decides that perhaps walking will help, and he creakily stands, stretching his arms as he rises. He slowly makes his way out the door and down the hall, letting the steps wake him up as he goes. He opens the door for the staff-only area and hopes that the staff vending machine will have Diet Beepist like last week, and pulls his wallet out of his shirt pocket. No, wait, John, what are you doing? John, you don't need more snacks. You had a big lunch, John. You don't need... He retrieves the Cheez-Its from the machine, savoring the tiny amount of serotonin his brain manages to conjure up over the vending machine's process. John arrives back at his desk and retrieves his yearly planner in order to get a better visual idea of what he's got planned this week and beyond. John's a pretty boring man from what I can tell. John started to think that I'm a boring man as well, but then he realized that he doesn't know me very well at all. He starts to think, nobody here really knows Victor, before I cut him off by saying, would you just look at how beautiful the sky looks today? Take a look, listeners, if you're in our general area, at the sky. Isn't it simply gorgeous? With that, I think we should take a moment to discover what we need to know this week about the weather. I've got Elizabeth, the station weather specialist, on the line here to tell us about how... Elizabeth? Are you there? The line is dead. Wait, I think Elizabeth isn't on the phone because she's approaching John in his cubicle with a rather angry look on her face. She points to something on his desk and practically screams, John, did you really steal my coffee? John realizes now that the coffee cup he'd picked up in the break room, while identical to his fast food coffee cup, has her name scrawled on the side instead of his. That must be why it tastes like a low-fat mocha latte with an extra shot of espresso, and not his usual caramel latte with extra caramel drizzle made at a cool temperature so he can drink it faster. He apologizes to Elizabeth wholeheartedly, genuinely sorry, but she doesn't seem ready to forgive. Funny, that's unlike her. How dare you, she accuses. Then she jumps for the small old radio on John's desk, frantically turning dials to further some mysterious mission she seems to be on. The radio, she yells. What's on the radio right now? She sounds panicked. Oh yeah, John says, nervous but very much keeping his cool. The guy on there, Victor, right? He's been narrating me all day. It's really sort of creepy. Are you kidding me? Elizabeth yells. Neither John nor Victor quite understand why she's so angry about this particular incident. It has my name on it and everything, John. She certainly seems very angry. I can't actually hear her, but John's thoughts seem to imply that she's rather salty. Well, perhaps in light of that, I'll take you to, in all its pre-recorded glory, the weather. John, the currently confused and mildly upset library employee, sits at his desk. Elizabeth has left his cubicle, but he feels very guilty for accidentally taking her coffee. He's had such a strange day, what with his thoughts being narrated on the radio for all the world to hear. You know, listeners, I can understand why John would feel guilty about this. I feel sympathy for him. I myself don't usually have coffee in the mornings, but this morning was an exception as Elizabeth was kind enough to bring me some. Today has been a rather strange day indeed. I've never narrated anyone's day quite so thoroughly on the radio, not even my own. Hopefully it's at least made for good entertainment. I don't think John is very amused at my willingness to turn his normal day into a radio program. Well, John, we have to say something while we're on air, and today it's been mostly about you. John thinks that the radio host can have better discretion over what he knows and what he's saying on the radio, but he feels like Victor must have no idea how embarrassing some of this is for him. Come on now, John, there are a lot of things you've thought about this afternoon that I haven't said. In fact, I feel like this has been a wonderful coworker bonding experience. I feel like I know you, John, on a personal level. It's incredible, really. You know, John, I think today's been an amazing experience despite how mundane and sort of sad your life is. John? John? Listeners, I am no longer getting input from John's thoughts. I need a moment to clear my mind. Please enjoy this pre-recorded message. Do you like coffee? Do you enjoy frappuccinos on warm summer days? How about a steaming warm latte on an icy winter evening? Do you like coffee? No, you don't. Nobody actually likes coffee. It's bitter and horrible and not fun to drink at all. It's now legal and acceptable to stop pretending that coffee is good. That's right, we don't have to pretend we all love it anymore. This message has been brought to you by whoever is the biggest soda and water company at the moment. Well, listeners, we end the day like we end most days. I sit in my studio as the sun sets. I speak to you all. I watch the city beneath us move and breathe, almost as though the city itself is alive. Today was very strange. But you know, I think it's exciting to have a strange day thrown in here and there with all the monotonous normalcy. It's been an honor being your radio host for the evening. I personally appreciate every single loyal listener we have here at Radio C.A.L.S. Thank you for listening, and as always, stay tuned.